Welcome back to Questing Beast. I'm Ben. Today we're going to be talking about how to make traps for D&D and other dungeon crawling role-playing games. We'll be using the tools in Knave 2nd Edition, which is the book that I recently published. Links in the description. Everything that you're going to need to make the traps is on pages 16 and 17. You're going to have trap effects, hazards, and mechanisms, and these can be rolled on or picked from and combined in all sorts of ways to make a near infinite number of possible traps. Now, there's a video that I made a few years back called Stop Hiding Traps, because really my philosophy for traps is that it's much more fun to encounter them and to figure out how they work and to physically disable them and bypass them than it is to just have this binary situation of does it deal damage to me because I detected it or does it not? I also don't like abstracting the process of disabling a trap. I much prefer to figure out a way to do it by manipulating the world. And that's something that's only really possible to do is if you as the game master have worked out how that trap functions. So how do you go about creating a trap? Well, for me, there's 3 Ds when it comes to traps, and that is detection, and then disarmament, and then damage. That's something that pretty much all traps have. But really the detection and the damage thing should be connected to each other, because usually the way that a trap does damage is often going to give you a clue to PCs that are in the area that there's a trap nearby. You want to signpost danger. You want to make it clear there's something dangerous so that players will investigate and find out about this new problem that they have to solve. So to start with, let's roll a trap effect or two and see if it inspires anything. So we have 82. So a trap effect is stretching. So maybe it grabs you and stretches you in some way. Or what's another possibility? We have 69, and that one is shredding. Now let's combine that with a couple of hazards to see if we can get any interesting combinations. We have 70 for a hazard, and that would be that there is rats, or possibly that there is, let's see, 54. So that would be molten iron. I like the combination of shredding and rats here. So a bunch of rats get released, maybe ravenous ones, maybe they're little mechanical rats or something similar, and they grab you and they start shredding you into pieces. A really horrible way to die. So what is the detection aspect of this trap? Well, if this is the way that the trap works, then it'd be likely that you would see things that were chewed up and shredded by rats nearby. This could be previous adventurers who came through this part of the layer. You would see that they're bones, and you would see, if you examine them closely, you would see little gnawing marks on them, little scratches all over them, some of them chewed into little pieces. You would see the remnants of clothing that have been shredded into long strips. And if this is all contained in one particular area, that's very good evidence that there is something really dangerous here to investigate. But what is actually going to cause this hazard to damage you? Let's look at the mechanism table. I like to roll a couple of these and combine them. Create a kind of mini Rube Goldberg device, perhaps, that is going to explain how this trap is activated and, of course, how you could possibly deactivate it. So first of all, we've got, let's see, number 3, which is a barrel. Ooh, that seems to fit with rats pretty well. We have 70, and that's going to be a room. So the whole room is part of the trap. It's not just a part of the room. And what else we have here? 78, and that's going to be a sphere. Okay, so here's one way you could interpret that. Let's say the players come up through the floor of a room, like up through a trap door, and they find themselves in a big circular room or a spherical room. And the exit to the room is on the western wall, kind of halfway up this sphere with a long sloped surface to get there. So their natural inclination is going to be to want to walk up the side of the sphere, kind of scramble up it to try and get to this door. But as they do so, what's going to happen is the whole room is going to start rolling forward because of the way that they've shifted the weight of the room. And there's a bunch of barrels, maybe 2 barrels, maybe a whole bunch of them, attached to the floor near where their trapdoor was that they came up through. So as the whole room begins to roll forward, all of these barrels will spill out their contents, which are full of really evil, maybe undead rats that have lived forever and are just there to devour human flesh. Is that too weird or too funhousey for you? No problem, let's try another one. Let's roll these in a different order this time and start with mechanisms, for example, because you don't have to go in the order that I showed before. So starting off, we have 32, which is the door is going to be part of this trap, as well as 13. So there's going to be a button. That's a classic for a trap. And just number 1, an air pump. So a door, a button, and an air pump. And what does this trap do? Let's go over to trap effects. Maybe there's number 70. So that is sifting, or I don't know if sifting works. Let's try a reroll and see what we get. We got 42, imprisoning. And let's throw one more thing in there. So let's give it an extra hazard. What could this hazard be? It's number 8, which is an avalanche. But you can interpret that in lots of different ways, like stone blocks falling, for example. So putting that all together, we have a trap that involves a door, an air pump, and a button, and it imprisons you, and a possible other hazard is a avalanche or being crushed by rocks. How would all of this work together? Well, perhaps you could have something as simple as a button on the floor right in front of the door of a room. And as you go up to open the door, you step on the button and that activates air pumps that are in the walls of the room. Maybe like there's little holes in the walls and they begin sucking the air out of the room. As this happens, it creates, this pressure inside the room, this negative pressure that seals the door shut. So you're not able to push it open because of the air being pulled out from inside. In combination with this, you could have some other effect like as the air is pulled from the room, it causes the walls on either side to be pulled towards the center of the room as the pressure forces them together, making the room smaller and smaller and smaller, which is going to crush the player with rocks. That's kind of like an avalanche. Now, how would you disable a trap like this? Well, it would rely on you noticing that the air is getting sucked out of the room. To disable it, all you'd have to do is find some very strong, flat object that you could press up against these pipes to block the air being pulled out of the room. Once this happens, it would probably overload the air pump and destroy it, and the room would go back to normal again. You want to do one more? Let's do one more. Let's roll on the hazards first this time, and let's see what we get. We get an alarm. Alarms are always good because they can increase the level of danger in the dungeon. Let's stick with alarm for now because we're going to have other dangerous things as well. Let's go over to trap effects. What is there along with the alarm? 98, winding, so something's being wound up. And let's pick another one too. So 34, so flapping. Winding and flapping is happening in conjunction with an alarm. And some mechanisms that are causing this. What do we got here? We have 12, which is a bucket. And let's just do one more, 25, which is a corridor. So what I'm imagining for this one is that you have a long corridor and at the end is a statue of a bird or a hawk up near the ceiling of the room. And if you get close to it, you can see that its wings are articulated. So they could flap, but they're not moving. So it's clearly mechanical in some way. And dangling from this bird statue is a rope with a bucket on the end. And inside the bucket, something valuable, treasure or something like that. If you got down near the bucket and looked up, you can see that the rope that the bucket is attached to goes up into the bird and is wound around a spool that's keeping it in place. Everything about this setup just screams of it being a trap, which is a good thing because it gives players something to think about. If they want to take the treasure out, that's when the trap's going to go off. Because they've reduced the weight of the bucket is now going to get pulled up into the bird statue because it had this kind of a tensioned spool that's wanting to pull it up, but the weight is keeping it down. And that's going to cause it to start screaming and setting off the alarm and flapping its wings. Do you want to not set off the alarm? Well, you can just bypass the treasure, or you can find a way to take it out while replacing it with the exact same weight, or finding a way to keep the rope fixed at the exact same distance that it was before you remove the bucket. That's just a couple of examples. There are an infinite number more that you could think of, things that would better fit your particular setting. And of course, all of these italicized entries right here are links to other random tables in this book that provide hundreds of more options that you can mix in. I talk a lot on this channel about how much I like very physical, manipulatable traps, and people often ask me, well, how do I make that sort of thing in practice? Hopefully, this is a good example of how to do it, and feel free to take a look at this page and come up with your own random traps and put them in the comments. I'm really eager to see what you guys come up with. Thanks for watching, everyone, and as usual, if you want to pick up a copy of Knave, you can get it in PDF or print form in the links down in the description below. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you next time.